They came, a blip on the horizon, flickering movement, something odd and eye-catching in the normal flow of clouds and sunlight and pollen and gnats. I was leaning into a big round hay bale when I noticed them, silhouettes of flickering V-shaped wings, long tails, a squadron of mourning doves. Shana, my De Coverley Kennels English setter, sat panting in the shade cast by the bale as the doves zigzagged through the number 8 ack-ack sent aloft by shooters on the far hill, the eastern boundary of Summerlee's Farm, a central Virginia quail hunting preserve that holds an annual Labor Day public dove shoot in the old-time Southern tradition. Heads up, I told my fellow gunners, Virginians Mark Mensch, his brother Ed, Paul Green, and Steve Putnam, all sitting on stools in the cool green shadows of the hedgerow above me. To the left, incoming. I hoped the birds would head our way, test our anti-dove defenses. Come they did, flaring, sliding and weaving their way through the gauntlet of shooters below, the pop of smoothbores reaching our ears as the birds wheeled across the cobalt sky above us. I mounted the Webley and Scott, picked a single dove and swung through it. My ounce of no. Eights found their mark, the dove puffed, folded its wings and fell, corkscrewing down to the ground. Shana happily went to gather the bird, and Mark offered the congratulatory note. Moments later, Shana delivered the dove after prancing her victory dance around the hay bale. This is so neat, I thought. I love this. The camaraderie, the people, the place, the history here, all of it. The sun was bright, the air warm but not so humid, and autumn had begun. Yee-haw! Mourning doves are the third most abundant bird species, the most plentiful and adaptable game bird in North America. More than 400 million doves inhabit North America, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, FWS. The birds have become the traditional harbinger of autumn across much of the nation, particularly in the South, where dove shooting is a far bigger deal than it is north of the Mason-Dixon line. Much of the Northeast regards doves as songbirds rather than game birds. Only 2 states permit dove shooting. Pennsylvania fields about 60,000 shooters who take 500,000 birds annually. Rhode Island's small gunner numbers and sparse harvest are regarded as a statistical anomaly. The Yankee Miss Janes who laud dove protection are actually creating a regional refuge that benefits gunners more than the birds. Hunting represents just 20% of overall dove mortality, with 58% of adults and 69% of all juveniles dying of natural causes annually. Doves are migratory, and when the first of early autumn's cold fronts spew cold rain and wind, New England's stoic songbirds start wishing they too were in the land of cotton. Down they come, most becoming game in the Carolinas or Georgia. Dove shooting in Dixie is doing fairly well. The highest dove harvest rates per square mile are in South Carolina, with 132 birds per square mile BPS, followed by Mississippi with 70 BPs, Louisiana with 61 BPS, and Alabama with 58 BPs. Overall, South Carolina gunners shoot about 4 million doves annually, second only to Texas' big harvest of up to 7 million birds. Mississippi and Alabama have dove harvests of about 3 million each, with Mississippi and Louisiana fielding about 130,000 shooters each. While most southern doves are taken by individuals or small parties of gunners doing their thing during the course of a long and generous gunning season, typically September through January, with bag limits ranging from a dozen to 15 birds daily. The big southern dove shoot is every bit as much a classic as our bourbon and college football. In the South, September's big dove shoots, with all the social trappings and family reunion-like atmosphere, are as much the demarcation between summer and autumn as our yellow school buses. Southern dove shooting represents one big, happy, invigorating tortilla where all of life's joys and sorrows get rolled into a single social outing. Dove shoots are opportunities for family and friends to gather for a mix of business and pleasure. Human bonding takes place, new and old dogs and guns are tested. Certainly the shoots involve a barbecue, and social propriety is expected. East of the Blue Ridge, in Virginia's Piedmont, crop-field fence lines, green-leafed oak woodlots, and cat-claw-tangled stream bottoms escorted Dandy Girl 3, my faithful sage green Ford Explorer, from U.S. Route 15 to back county roads to Summerlee's Farm. When the tires crunched gravel, the kennel-crated setters whined, knowing it was fun we were after. Summerlee's farm is a piece of old Virginia preserved, like oak embers in a December fireplace. The 300-acre farm is steeped in history. A white-columned, 1824 antebellum home dominates the hill that is the heart of the operation. And every time I see it, I think of Nash Buckingham's description of Brick House in Hallowed Years. How Brick House suddenly popped up on a visitor, the formal front yard and white oak staves. Clump into its austere but welcoming centre hall. Never mind the mud on your boots and leave the dogs be. Pile your bird hunter's plunder in Captain Ev's bedroom. It used to be the parlour when Crinoline waltzed to the Mockingbird. Brick House's ability to smile a rare and all-embracing welcome, the full width of its classic facings, certainly applies. This warmth is repeated when tall, sinewy Summerlee's owner Paul Gander or his pretty wife, Vanessa, greet visitors. In 2001, Gardner and his family began the long-term task of transforming Summerlee's from Old Dominion agriculture into a gunning destination. Beginning with the farm's bird habitat, broom sedge quail fields, brushy creek bottoms, small grain food plots and warm season grasses, they soon moved on to renovating the facilities. Most recently, for example, the farm's former 4-bay workshop became a lodge clubhouse, complete with cathedral ceiling, loft bedrooms and kitchen. The Labor Day dove shoot at Summerlee's begins with registration. Although dove season doesn't begin until noon, by about 10 a.m., many anxious shooters begin gathering to make sure they get a familiar spot. Shoots at the farm have become quite popular lately, with as many as 100 shooters. Camouflage and British tan are the dress of the day. The guns range from ancient side-by-sides to modern autoloaders, and the dogs include Goldens, Labs, Brittany's, and at least one brace of elegant English setters. Shortly after 11 a.m., Paul gathers everyone together to discuss gentlemanly dove shooting etiquette. No shots below the horizon. Be aware of other gunners and their dogs. And most of all, have a good but safe time. Then gunners are ferried out to individual shooting stations via a hay wagon, converted to carry gunners with 2 rows of straw bales to sit on. Every few minutes the wagon appears, shooters board the dove train. Then it disappears over the far hill. Dispersing all these shooters safely across 300 acres is an unparalleled feat of logistics. Yet a few minutes before noon, all is arranged. Whistling wings followed by a brief burst of smoothbore fire signals the arrival of another autumn. For the last several years, our large contingent focused on a creek bottom, offering water for our dogs and a natural flight funnel for the doves. Paul's dove management is focused on providing food plots, disked patches of weedy growth sown with wheat and sunflower, sure to draw birds. The weedy growth does double duty after dove season, becoming excellent quail cover. During the 2003 shoot, for example, we posted the group's 2 youngest shooters, high school students Matt and Steve, along the creek bottom's natural hedgerow bordering a disked sunflower field, while Mark, Adam, Paul, Rob and Mike formed a line rising up the opposite hill. Our little arrangement was jokingly referred to as the Valley of Death, something the scads of doves who ran our gauntlet still snicker about. FWS figures show Pennsylvanians are abysmal dove shots, firing an average of 10 shells per dove bagged, compared to North Carolinians who do the job in 8.6 shells per bird. The doves moved back and forth among food, water and roost, big bunches of birds coming in from adjacent roosting areas to feed in Paul's food plots. For a time, Mark and Adam were the epicenter of the shooting, their guns popping as flights of swept-winged doves tilted and whirled across their section of the line. Mark shot his 20-gauge Model 24 Winchester extremely well, I thought, watching him tumble several doves in a row, all long shots. His chocolate lab, Billy, happily fetched the birds. The next flight went a bit higher on the hill, giving Paul, Rob and Mike the shots. Meanwhile, Matt, Steve and I felt out of the action. Shana sat in the shade, waiting, whimpering a bit, anxious to shed her spectator role. Things shift quickly in a dove field, however. Moments later, telltale triangular silhouettes appeared on the skyline, and we were in business. The first squadron had 5 birds, V-ed out 3 left, near Matt and Steve, a pair on the right, in my zone. Steve and Matt tumbled 2 birds before my first bird fell. From that point on, a constant stream of singles, pairs, and occasionally a squadron of birds tried to penetrate our line. In reality, more birds got through than didn't, but dove openers are only part reality, part memory. At one point, Steve joked about how well the full choke on his Stevens Model 311 side-by-side worked for long birds. A dove soared high overhead, he swung, the gun cracked, and down tumbled a long bird, something I suspect he didn't anticipate. Nearby gunners were making some pretty shots too. By 5 p.m., the flights in and out of our valley slowed. Shooting grew sparse as the birds found their roosts. It became difficult to pay attention to the shooting when the scent of pork barbecue and bluegrass music from the live band wafted down over the hill. The food scents tantalized growling bellies, the music promised rest for the weary, and of course there was what lay waiting on ice in the coolers. Pavlov's dogs couldn't have drooled more. The shoot was done. We feasted on the barbecue, beans, coleslaw, and other victuals, rehydrated parched palates on cool drinks, told whopper stories about autumns past, and occasionally discussed business. The sun fell into the western horizon while a flock of geese honked over us, nearly everyone drawing a mental bead on the birds. Driving back to my home north of the Mason-Dixon line, I felt satisfied, yet like I was leaving a part of myself at Summerlee's farm. I'd had fun, done some shooting, savored the camaraderie of several new friends, and again enjoyed Virginia's exquisite hospitality, especially from the gardeners. There simply is no better way to celebrate the coming of autumn than a good old Southern dove shoot. Republished with permission from A Good Old Southern Dove Shoot, Gunning Virginia's Dove Opener. By John D. Taylor, 2006. The Upland Almanac, Spring 2006. 2006 by John D. Taylor.